Alright, people. Are you ready? As ready as you will be? Yep. Yay. Rasmus, Cliff?
No, not now.
You are first.
No.
Just get it over with.
No.
You're not finished?
Yes, but
Just get it over with. Don't worry, I won't torture you. No. Okay, send the PowerPoint if you want to.
Det er simpelthen kun VGI, den kører.
Den kører vi i gang, ja. Det gør den. We just love these old standards, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Very nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So our software development model was the spiral model. We just have an overview. So this is the spiral model. We have 4 phases. We start off with the planning phase, where we gather all the requirements, all the small things that we have to implement in the web page, and maybe even do a tiny bit of research. And then we go into the risk analysis, where we really start to look at, okay, what can go wrong, and how can we develop alternative ideas if the first idea should go wrong. So we always have some kind of a backup plan, and then we incorporate in the end of the risk analysis we incorporate some kind of prototype to actually see if what we have done so far works. And then we move into the engineering phase, it's called, where you actually code the code. Surprise! You make the code and then you test it, and yeah, and then you move to the 4th phase of evaluation, where you get together with your customer and you try to see if it works the way they want it to work, and then if it doesn't, then you move on to phase 1 again, which is planning, and then you start all over again until you have the finished product. Yeah, some of the advantages is that we have a very high avoidance of risk because we are taking many things into consideration. Yeah. And we try to narrow down the problems as much as possible, so we don't have to start all over again. And it's good for larger projects, which surprisingly enough means that it's bad for smaller projects, because it's really focused on the risk in the project and how you can save time doing doing a lot of research on how to avoid certain problems. Yeah, and there's you can add additional features in the future if you want, if the customer isn't satisfied with what you've done so far, so you can just repeat it until the actual project is over. Yeah, the disadvantages. Yeah, you need to be very good at risk analysis. You have to have some kind of expertise to know what you're actually doing, and you know how you need to know what you're doing, surprisingly enough, but you need to narrow it very, very much down. So yeah, and as I said, the project is based on the risk part, that you really do your research and try to narrow it down. Yeah, and yeah, it won't work on small. It could work on smaller project, but it would be too much of a complex model. You could do it simpler. So yeah. Yeah, considering towards web development, it's good for various situations, such as larger projects, and you can really get a lot of information before you actually start coding, and then by that you minimize all the risk, errors and bugs and broken things. I don't know. Yeah, then it's easy to learn, but I think it's pretty hard to master. You have to have some kind of knowledge about it.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Why is it good for complex projects?
because you spend a lot of time planning, and then you analyze what you've planned, and then you see, okay, does this work with this, and can I use this with this, and you try to see if all the elements will actually work together, and that would be better on bigger projects because some reason.
So let's say we let's say we find an error in coding. What can we do with this model that we couldn't do with the waterfall?
We can go back in this. We can't really go back in
Exactly.
waterfall. So.
Exactly.
Yes,
Hello?
that's me.
You
And
have
we think we will use it because making a content management system is a very big project.
Yeah.
And we have also put a lot of extra in and yes.
I can't spell. Okay.
Yes.
No, I just found that title. Just go.
Okay. We also have to do a lot of testing, and we already start testing from the beginning. So
some prototypes.
That's it.
Okay, so
Well, I can just add something.
Yeah.
The reason we want to use this is because we have so many small elements, and we're not really sure yet on all the elements. So we want to be able to go back into the testing process and coding process, and we wanted to be able to do that repeatedly. So that was.
Yeah. Any questions, people?
Do you have any text that isn't slanted?
Do we have an actual question?
It should be in a spiral.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, I was looking for a spiral, but Microsoft. I don't know.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Hooray.
All right. All right. So Nereus and Company. Yeah. Extreme Programming. Extreme Programming or Windows XP. Yep. You decide.
If they just did a presentation for Windows XP, I will be so happy.
That could be rather
Yes,
fun.
we're doing a presentation about Windows XP.
Did you see the presentation on Windows 95? Yeah, of course you did. With Bill
No,
Gates?
I did it on 90.
Oh, we should see it afterwards. Bill
Is
Gates.
that the one where they fucking dance around and stuff?
No, it's where it's where the key Microsoft engineers fucks up
Oh no.
because he is demonstrating Windows 95.
It's like every time you open a folder, it just opens a new window.
Okay. Should I fire up the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Yeah.
What's that?
Okay, I need to connect the cable.
Oh yeah, that's probably it.
That could be a barrier. Let's see. Extreme Programming.
Model.
Exactly. Sorry.
Extreme programming
Crazy.
model.
Go crazy.
I will. So the overview of the model. So extreme programming model is just whenever you would have like in a company you would have programmers separated from designers and just having clustered. The programmers would definitely use an extreme programming model because it's just basically applying patches and updates constantly to your project instead of actually taking it like into waterfall model. Would it be like just generating the requirements and getting everything coding, but like those parts would end. With this is just actually ignoring some of the parts which is might not be available at the same time, and then just focusing on some of the things then, and in just do short cycles of programming.
Alright, so you have these what do you call them, frequent releases?
Yeah.
So you will make a lot of releases.
pros and cons. So the pros is that it allows developers to focus instead of wasting time on needless paperwork and meetings. So basically, the developers they can also develop in pairs, actually reviewing the code and really extensively and researching a lot. It reduces the cost and frustration for everyone involved. So the programmers, they can just do their job. They don't need to like follow all of the paradigms. Constantly making changes and applying releases, updates by following the feedback from your customer. It's probably one of the best ones because you can constantly keep and stay in contact with your customer, and you know that your product will be what your customer wants. The cons is at the beginning of the project, you will not gonna have like full list of the requirements, and it's just never gonna be like, because in any project it's always gonna come in like some of the requirements, new ones, like, oh, maybe we do this instead of that. And the biggest disadvantage is that you will have to constantly be available with the customer, but not all of the customers are actually wants that kind of close relationship with their programmers, and or don't even have time for that. So this model can be adapted by web developers, but it would be hard because like would you implement the design process into it? You would have to probably finish the design first and then go into this model. The quality would increase in programming, and it would bring a lot of more complex functionality into even for the simple websites that we could manage out.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So it's a good thing that you have all these releases, right? And you have a close requirement adaptation. You can always have the updated requirements list from the customer. That's a good thing, right?
Yeah, I think like most of these models are just adapted by game developers.
Yeah.
MMOs, they're always like releasing patches. Like before they release alpha, and then they just go with the updates and updates and updates, listening to their customers, what they feel like, and then they just update it constantly.
And they start out with the bare minimum of requirements.
Yeah.
And then build on top of that.
Yeah, and it's just endless development. That's why it fits so well. But you don't have to like do an endless development. You can just do the requirements, nothing more, and then just wait for other requirements to come in.
So the basic model is, I assume it's not the waterfall model.
No.
What is the basic model behind this?
It's agile development.
Yeah, but that uses the iteration, right?
Yeah.
Iteration and increment, because you are
Increasing.
iterating all the time, getting new requirements. You are building upon your project, so you are incrementing all the time.
Yeah.
Very nice. Questions, people? Anything about the text, or it's
Too much text.
angle of the text?
Too much text.
I think it's nice and in better.
In better.
I don't know how to say.
What did you say?
I think it's called even or something.
It's nice and even.
Yeah.
I like it.
Nice and
Horizontal.
better.
Mm.
We should adapt that word to English.
In better.
Better. Very good.
Good people.
Extreme programming?
Why was it extreme?
What?
What makes it extreme?
Because you isolate yourself from everything.
Yeah, we have a question. What makes it extreme? Could you give an answer on that?
Because programmers don't really care about anything else. They're just programming.
They're just programming and making releases all the time.
There's no utility.
Basically, they just start programming.
Yeah,
And then
it's really extreme.
they start programming, and then they talk to the customer. The customer says, "Oh, we have another requirement. Okay, we will just code that extra feature right away." Maybe they don't do so much documentation.
Those are like a soft
No.
or something?
No, but they do document their updates.
People, maybe you should send all your PowerPoints to me. I can put them on SharePoint if you want to have a look on them. Right? Yep. All right. Very nice.
Okay, it's spirit level.
What?
Ivada.
It's in Veda. We like that word. We should use that a lot more. In Veda.
I never knew that word for now.
All right. So we have Tina and company.
Well, I have a question.
Yeah.
So, you said we should send our
You can,
PowerPoint.
yeah, you can
Can we
send it.
just send our text because the PowerPoint has literally only pictures?
I was also going to talk about the model.
Yeah, that could be okay, but maybe I think you should send a PowerPoint anyway. It's just pictures. We like pictures.
There is no explanation. There's no text on
So
it.
it's only what you can, yeah.
Okay.
You see, we don't need it, so we-
It's just pictures, no text. We talk the text.
Do you have the text on digital form?
Yeah.
Send the PowerPoint and the text.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
You want to use my laptop?
Ja. Ja, jeg skulle gerne til.
Ja. Super. Super.
Håber, at det er rigtigt.
Jamen, det er rigtigt. Den right here.
Yes.
Agile.
Because you see
I will.
You need the camera the other way around.
Ja,
Let's see if somebody connects there.
sådan
There
der.
is. And just up and down.
Yes.
Go crazy.
Okay. Bye.
You go out of the door.
You say go crazy. There's a lot of different models you can pick, but this is one of them, and it's more or less showing that you can go back and forth all the time, and when you go back you can also turn around and stay in your circle a little bit before you go again, and you can take another loop, and you can go back and forth again.
So we are looping.
We are looping.
We are looping a lot.
Yes,
Yep.
that's the one. So, it was some people who developed this, and they kind of make a manifest how to work in this. And it is that you can work with individual, and you can interact with other persons all through the whole project. And you can work with more like develop on the computer, then you have to sit down and work make all the documents and inquiries. Then you all the time you have your customer working with you. It's a collaboration. So you all the time you can discuss, hey, we're here, and the customer can come in and say, hey, I got a new idea. So it's all about you can change more or less any minute in this one. Yeah, next. So the advantage is that you can, there's a speed tip, you can quickly make a short part of the system that is required and test it and give it to the customer, so he has something to work on. You can go back then again and make another point of the project and give it to him, so you can give him all the time. You can have deadlines for this part, this part. And so this is also like that, it is flexible, so you can always change everything, because if you have test something, you give it to the customer can come back and say, hey, I like to change, so you can do that again. It is compatible to other methods. If the company maybe has worked like in a Scrum model before, you can easily it's easily compatible with
So you can
other.
switch.
You can switch.
Yeah. Okay.
And the disadvantage is there can be pressure on the working team, because you have to deliver more or less all the time, so you can be under pressure. And it can be difficult to work. What did I read? Difficult to work with because actually you can start working a project and you don't really know what is going to be the end of this project because you don't have any requirements. You just have a little, well, we need to do a little workshop, but we actually don't know what is going to be the end. So this can be hard working. And it can be hard to be innovative in a project like this, where you have to deliver. You don't really know where you're coming from and where you're going to. So it can put pressure on you like that also.
So all these advantages, the speed and flexibility, comes with a price.
It comes with a
Yeah.
point.
People will get stressed out maybe, or
Yeah, well, maybe I kind of think now that I'm thinking it's I saw a little bit of the job Steve Jobs yesterday. It's
Yeah.
like this is the way they were working in there. I mean, I kind
you know
of
Steve Jobs was he was kind of a tough
He
CEO,
was
I think you know.
quite
Yeah.
tough. Yeah, and considerations. Actually, they say that you should, if you're a huge group, it can be very difficult to work in this. Don't put 200 people working together with it. It will get more pressure and more frustration. So if you are a little group, like maybe 5, 8 person, then it might be a good way to work. You can support each other because you can be a team of the designers and code people and whatever in this, but too many people, it would be hard to. It's a kind of laissez-faire, more or less, way of work.
Okay.
Yeah.
So did you do any considerations on web development? What do you think of this model when you should develop your CMS system? Will it work?
Yeah, it's quite a wild one because there's not really a structure. So I think you have to be a little in discipline with yourself to work in it. But it's also, there's a high to the roof. There's a lot of air in it. So you might be able to, even though you're under pressure, maybe innovate. It depends on how you work, I guess. Because it might be really good for people who are developments, who are innovative. It might be.
What is the basic model behind this? What is
it actually says it's come from Ayrton, I was telling you about, and Ayrton is further development of Scrum.
Yeah, they look a little like each other, Scrum.
Yeah.
But
And
we
there's
definitely
another one mentioned called the Princess 2, but you haven't mentioned that. So.
Did you have
I was
questions?
just wondering, how long can a sprint be? Can you just go on, or?
Yeah, it could go on for years. I probably could.
Because I saw in Scrum when you do a sprint, you have a maximum of 30 days.
Yeah, Scrum has some limitations. Some
Maybe NASA
how
has
long.
20 years.
Usually a sprint, in the name, sprint, you have to do a lot of work quickly. So you have a limitation, I think it's around
2 weeks, more or less the same.
So probably several years is not so good.
Yeah.
Very nice. So we're not talking about the waterfall model here. It's
totally opposite of the.
totally opposite. It's also based on the iterative and the increment, right? Because we're also constantly changing. Several of these models can overlap because you also make prototypes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
So, agile development. So now we will have the Scrum people. Okay, you ready? We will have the Scrum people.
We are the Scrum people.
You are the Scrum people. You look nice.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Kind of. In like a casual sort of
Very
way.
nice. A good idea they didn't create a model called the trash method.
How about you get the fuck out of here with that?
Okay. You have VGA?
I still don't don't know what to react.
Should work. I hope.
Oh, it was not meant to be
Somewhere.
just.
No, go ahead.
I'm constantly making jokes. You should kind of learn with that.
It's not a joke machine.
And you can throw something at me also.
Table.
Like a table. Exactly.
No, it wouldn't. That would be terrifying.
Yeah.
People
Think
can
maybe,
get
yeah.
injured.
Okay.
Actually, you know what?
Not right now.
I will get out of the way.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Scrum method. It is used by a ton of really, really large companies and a ton of really small indie developers all over the world. The reason for this is that it is really, really good. Now, in order to properly start up Scrum, you need to first have a few roles assigned. The first and most important role is that of the, there it is on the left, the product owner, which is essentially the person who hires the team to develop the product because they then have the ideas for the product. They are basically the big stakeholder and they have the product requirements printed out for you that you need to follow and fulfill in order to succeed. Now, the second very important one is the guy up there in the green, the Scrum Master. And he's basically the, thank you. He's basically the project manager, and he's the one, he or she, they are the one who who keeps track of all the progress and everything that we're doing, and also schedules all the meetings, which is kind of important because when using Scrum, you have a lot of meetings. We'll get back to that. Then, of course, we have all of the developers. It's essentially like programmers and artists and all of these cool people who then work on the product and develop it. Another thing that we also need are testers. They are, of course, also very important, and you can get testers in two different ways. You can either bring some people in externally, or you can just say to some of the developers, hey, you're testing today, cool. When testing, of course, you don't necessarily need to test the entire product all at once. You can just do smaller parts. It depends on what you need, but of course you need testing. Now, when you start doing Scrum, the first thing you need to do is, of course, get the requirements list. But once you have it, you can then do what is called a product backlog, which is essentially a wish list. It is the biggest list that you're going to be working with throughout this product, and it is just all of the things, basically, like all the things that you wanna and can do. Now, what you do with it then is you transfer it into a release backlog, which is kind of the same thing, except now everything is structured a bit better, and it's the different points and tasks are sorted after priority. So that way, when you start working, you always get the most important things done first. Boom, quick. Now, what you do with then is you take the different points, the different smaller tasks on the release backlog and turn that into sprints. Sprints we have talked about, but let's just go through it again. It is a very small list of sort of but tasks that are connected in some way, which you then work on very constantly, very consistently in order to get it done as quickly as possible. Now, a sprint can take different varieties of time, but the customary method is 2 weeks, as we discussed.
Just go on.
Okay, fair enough. Now, as we all know, as we've all experienced and felt horrifically, when you're working on a project, time is a massively important resource. And in order to estimate time, you have a very specific method within Scrum. This is called the burn down chart. And it is essentially, as you can see, a pillar diagram, a pillar diagram that shows all the work that you have left in this sprint or in the entire project, if you will. And as you can see, it measures in the different days, so you can see how the different tasks that you need to do are slowly whittling away, which means that you can get a very clear idea of when you're going to be done with the entire thing. And if that ain't fast enough, start whipping people, start working faster. And so that way you can keep track of not only how fast it's going, but when you will be done effectively.
Yeah.
So what is that good for?
It's good for getting done on time.
Yeah, what do we call that? It's good for estimating how long
Time estimate,
Yeah.
of course.
It gives you a clear idea of how will we will finish. How will we be finished?
That's what Søren likes. That's what he likes, and time estimation.
Do you like?
You just have to say that to the exam. I will.
Fair enough.
Right. So I'm gonna get I'm gonna get back to it now because we're talking about the meetings. Scrum is a very communicative method. That means you have several meetings during this project. So every morning you have the scrum, the daily scrum. You actually meet, you stand up and you talk about your issues, what you're going to do at the day, if you have any problems, whatsoever you can think of to start the project at this day. Another meeting that you will have is at the end of every sprint. It's still going to talk, well, you're going to talk about the issues that you're having, if you think you need any changes for a further sprint, or if anything in general bothers you, or if it doesn't bother you, if anything's fine, that's perfect to say too sometimes. Motivating. Yes. So let's talk about some advantages, because Scrum has a lot of them. Apparently quite a lot of, yeah. So, as we know, it's really agile, which means you can just change stuff if you want to, if you feel like it. And it's also iterative, which is good, because every sprint is going to be repeated in kind of a way, so you get used to the work that you're doing. Also, as I said before, it has a high sense of communication. You will always know what the other person's doing, especially if you use an online program, so you can see what they're doing right now. Well, the time estimation, as Søren said, is really good, which is good for your boss, because kind of time is money, and that's perfect. And as we divide our tasks into smaller tasks, it's easier to be done, and it has a bigger feeling of success when you do one task and finish it. Also, there's a huge factor of individual efficiency, because you can basically choose your assignment and choose the one that you feel most comfortable in, and choose the one that you can do best right at the time. Of course, you cannot choose one in 2 weeks. You have to choose one from the actual sprint right now. Well, disadvantages. There are not so many, but one of them might be that you can lose the perspective of when you're done because of all those short sprints. Also, it's a really challenging method if you work in really, really large groups, because it can be really hard to focus all these groups together. No, members, people. And those daily meetings can be a little bit frustrating, but if you do Scrum, you have to do Scrum, the whole thing.
Yes. So basically, to summarize, as web developers, we will most likely be using this because we can divide tasks into smaller pieces and get a better overview of what we have to do. Also, keep track of our time with the burn down chart, which provides a visual overview of how we're progressing, and our estimate and our actual time as well.
Yep.
And all assignments are clearly laid out for everyone, and the script is visible and interactive while working with it. And it also promotes communication, and we all know that that's a bit hard sometimes if we get too deep into our projects. And of course, it also focuses on flexibility and agility, which is important, but not in a way of jumping through physical loops. So yeah, we'd probably be using this as well,
We'll be using it,
as we also have in the past. And in the end, it also makes testing more easy, because we can basically do it whenever we want, and if we need to, we can add it to the sprint. And finally, a tool that's not very useful.
That's not supposed to look like that.
Oh, we can see the.
It's called Scrumwise.
Yeah.
And
Looks
at
like
least the link
Scrumwise.
is there.
Yeah.
And we can magically get free accounts from the school, from TICE apparently.
Yeah.
At least Diana says so.
Yeah, Thijs just gives us accounts. If you need him for a project, just go there, give him your email, and he can assign.
Magic wand.
Yeah, I explained the whole process with the glowing and the wings and everything, but you just have to go and see.
Yeah.
If you don't want to go to TICE, you can get a 1 month free test version of it, but you have to use a different email every time you do it. So I had no email left, so I had to go to TICE.
Okay.
Scrum, yo.
Yes.
Scrum, yo. Are there any questions? Do you have any questions for that? No? Can you see any Agile and Scrum? They kind of looks like each other.
They do, because again, the entire idea is that we're working it through time and time again, and if we have to, we can just go back and work it over one more time if there's something we need to touch up on.
So the question is, what are the differences? If you can see.
Scrum is a lot.
No,
Scrum is very organized, and there's a big focus on communication flow. We have all these meetings and all of this communication going on basically. So there's a focus on everybody always knowing what's going on. So it's far easier to do complicated organization within Scrum.
I also absolutely love the time estimate that we can do there.
Yeah.
That's just a real good thing.
So maybe we have a little bit more documentation than the other.
And time estimation.
Yeah. Estimation, I like it. Okay.
Yeah.
Did you have a question?
Yeah.
No. I tried to be in a group where we did that one, and it's very hard to focus on the meetings because you have to stand up when you do the
Yeah.
meetings. That's the whole idea, because you don't want the meetings to be too long.
Right.
So it's very hard to, you just have a standing meeting.
Well, I think
And
it's really.
and how deep can you get into what really matters in a standing meeting?
Yeah. I think it's really important that you have a really good Scrum Master for that helps you go through that. So as soon as you have that, it will just work.
Also really important to not skip leg day, because that way you
Yeah.
can hold long
You can
meetings.
stay longer.
Yeah, but again, if you have a good master, a sitting meeting should be the same.
Well, that is
It's a
true, but we did that sometimes too. But I just personally feel like it's a little more better, a different feeling if you stand and talk about stuff and then sit for 5 hours after that. But that's just me maybe. But you are right.
Yeah, but a meeting doesn't have to take 5 hours. I mean, if you're a good master of a meeting, you
Yeah,
can
sure.
No, the meeting
make
should be
people
short.
focus on what is important here.
The meeting should be really short.
Yeah, that's why you stand up.
Yeah.
Because if you stand up, you are not going to have a long meeting.
No, that is correct.
But actually, it's true. There is a lot of companies in the world that started to practice using stand-up meetings because it takes a lot shorter time.
Stand in a class.
Because if you get tired in your legs when you stand up. So if you are sitting on a chair and there's coffee, then you will probably sit there for a little longer time. Statistically. Yep. Any more questions? Nope. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So we just need the radical. Radical. Yeah.
I'm talking now.
I want to talk.
So Nereus talks.
Give me the presentation, I'll talk.
All right. So you want to be up here, you all by yourself?
No, I'm not sure what I'm doing.
Yep.
Okay, so the rapid application development, RAD.
Just name, so it's just open.
Okay, so the model, as you can see, it's the analysis, quick design, like you get the basics, and basically you go into an infinite loop until you get something done with your client. So the developers of software and multimedia designers work together closely until they get the needed things. Then it goes to the testing and deployment thing. Okay, So as I said, so basically, as the client wants to get their basic needs done, gathered visual information for businesses, information is reviewed and analyzed by the clients and by the developers. Prototype cycles. It's to demonstrate, refine, develop, rinse and repeat. That's the basic cycle it goes into. When it comes to the testing side, it's time to reduce the time is reduced, the prototype already almost fully made, and because they constantly upgrade their stuff when they're going between the information going between them. Overall, testing is still important. Deployment. Final product is ready for deployment and so the basic good things about this, it's good for short projects which are narrow like apps and stuff, because it's expensive to do this because you need experienced people to do the work, plus you need someone experienced enough to understand business in the team, who can always talk to your is there any more advantages of the RAD?
Yeah, because what if I take that one?
Sure.
Yes, so much. Yeah, the advantages, number one is the development time overall is reduced, according to our sources, 67% faster. I'm not sure you can trust the sources, but we do for now.
That's
so
a lot.
that's
Yeah.
they look nice, the size. So I think I'm not trust. And it increases reusability of components. It's 80% less coding, which is very nice. I feel high, and 75% lower cost.
That's insane.
Yeah, from the same source. So if the first one is true, this one should be true, at least. And yeah, there's a lot of work you save by doing this process.
Questions,
We have a question.
Yeah.
Do you have a question, Nuri?
Yes, I do.
Shoot.
If you would use Scrum and RAD, how would RAD be 80% less code?
We don't know about Scrum. That's not our. I don't know.
So
Ask the
Compared to what?
that's a high number.
That is a
Why
high
Yeah,
number.
everybody
it's a
use
low
this
number.
one?
It's less coding.
You should only use this one.
Less
All
coding.
businesses.
Yeah,
Comes
but
up
No,
model
there's just
in the-
advantages.
In the end, then you see a model of.
It's
how
for
many
small
companies-
projects. That's the idea. This is
Smaller
for us.
project.
Yeah.
Even the small project is still it would be the same amount of coding.
yeah, right. If I want to do a click button, there's a specific amount of coding that I need. How can it be 80% less?
Exactly, you're still gonna
because
code the
you
same
know
amount.
exactly what you're
You
going
read
to
your-
You're gonna
code.
spend the same amount of time.
Reusing a lot of.
You're
Yeah,
not
recycling,
changing.
yeah.
You're not changing the
But you-
requirements.
But you
I
have
know
from,
you
uh,
maybe hard
you have
coding
from
or
reliable
something.
source or what?
Who is
So
reliable?
Who was reliable?
yeah. Of course, we always do.
Yeah.
So ask them.
That's insane.
Did you,
Just wondering,
yeah.
because you said it was expensive to do this, but there it says
Yes,
that it costs 75%.
it's expensive for a small group, the amount of
What do you
small
mean by
people that you
Not compared to large ones.
Can
like
Not
a small group of people. It's expensive for a small group, but when counting for big, groups of people, it's less.
So it's cheaper to do it in bigger groups.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it costs less because less people are involved in this
Totally get it.
fast.
So it's not a good idea to use this model in a small
Yeah.
small project.
Yes, in small projects and in small amount of groups.
It's not good. Yeah.
Can continue now. Another benefit is quick initial reviews and customer feedback, because you get a lot of iterations this way that you can send out to your customer and anyone else on the team, and then you will get a lot of feedback very quickly. So that's another big advantage. And then integration from the very beginning, it solves lots of integration issues. Like
There has to be some disadvantages, right?
no, just this, but the end. Philip, was that yours? Or?
Just go.
Let's find the. Oh, Mr. Negative come in. No. Yeah.
Well, the disadvantages is that it depends on a strong team and individual performances for identified business requirement. It means you have to have qualified people to line up and make the requirements. Only system.
What?
So second one, only system that can be modularized.
Only system using that. Modularized. No, modularized. Sorry.
So is it for the wrong line, or?
I didn't put that line, so I'm not.
Who wrote it?
I never wrote that.
Just gypsy.
Well, it
Yeah. Over time.
it requires highly skilled developers and designers to work in tandem, so they to work faster.
Okay. Could I take on? I don't mind. The basic disadvantages in this thing doesn't work with big projects. This sucks with big projects because it's a fast-paced development which goes with apps. They don't supply any large databases and don't do that kind of thing. It's only for
The cycles will be very long if it is a large project.
that's why.
Yeah.
The other
Didn't you say that it didn't work for small projects?
no, I said it works just for small projects.
That's the idea.
But
No, I said the other way around.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah,
Oh.
yes, I heard the same thing.
Maybe.
Yeah, because it looks with all these iterative models, they are good for.
Please ask more questions,
Yeah.
then I can elaborate more.
Yeah.
I'm still not sure about that 80%. I'm not convinced.
I'm sorry, no.
The amount of time you use coding is like, if you spend 80% less time,
Yeah, usually they're
you're gonna produce
Okay.
80% less code.
yeah.
Yeah, but for small project, not that.
So if you take a Scrum model for a small project, it would be the same. It wouldn't be less coding.
No.
Like, you can't do that.
That's almost more.
Yeah.
I'm
But
no
why won't
that
it
this
be?
is
I
like
mean,
Well,
yeah, if
Why not?
Because the code can't disappear and then the system works without it.
Yes, it can.
yes, you can do
Yeah,
less.
If you make a
Miracle.
Still is a high.
Wizards
is
of
a high
Oz and
number.
consoles.
If
Yeah,
you
you can do less. But
If you're so sure when the design time is on or the requirements time is off, when you exactly have the paper, then you only code what you need to do during the requirements. But in a lot of the other scrums, you can change and you show how much are you coding that you finally you throw away. You have wasted some time maybe because now we make new requirements.
But it really depends on a strong team, very strong team,
Yeah, but
very hard. Yeah.
still, I
It
mean.
does.
But
In a-
since
in
the
a lot of-
teams can be big, they're
Yeah.
up to 6 people, one team, and there are only, I think, maximum of 3 teams.
Yeah, it has to be skill programs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was.
Yeah, like
No.
That's also why it's expensive. You need to pay more per hour, huh?
Yeah,
But-
because it's only a small group and you're not paying a big company.
How is it a disadvantage that you need highly skilled people?
It's hard to find them.
Yeah, it's hard to find.
It's hard to gather them.
Not always, right?
But usually all these iterative and increment models, they are good at big projects usually, because you can go through testing multiple times and you can get requirements multiple times.
But this is rapid development.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Do you have anything? Do you have?
I'm not
Gizmo? Yeah.
sure.
That's just
Rad,
list,
not rapid.
What does RED stand for anyway?
Rapid application development.
Hi.
This is the basic things that
So
that
this
they
is-
develop.
This is from WaveMaker. That's a rapid application development model. This is where we got the information that.
Yeah.
And that's all. Yep.
Okay.
Well, this is
That one?
I'm thinking of.
Every time I ask a question, I have like 10 more.
Yeah. Exponential. All right. Okay, people. I hope you got a little bit more insight into these models. Who want to use the waterfall model? Very nice. Very nice. There is a reason why all models are using the iterative and increment pattern, and also the spiral, because you can go through the things more times. Requirements change, people. Yeah.
But if you are in a project and you work for a company and you do waterfall thing, and then in the end the company tells you, well, this is wrong, will the project people just say, well, we can't change that now, or what?
No. But usually if they come when you have coded everything and saying we have another requirement, then you will probably say then, okay, kind of late, people, we have already coded everything. It's very, very small and simple projects that you can use the waterfall model on. Because, well, let's face it, people, when you are assembling a car or making a Lego thing, you have all the requirements, you know what you should do. They are using the waterfall model in some way when they are manufacturing cars, because if they just go on an assembly cord and they put stuff into it. Software doesn't work that way. Software changes over time also. Okay. Okay, people. Iterative and increment is good. Prototyping is good. Testing one time only is bad. Yep. And getting your requirements only once, not maintaining them, getting them updated. Okay. You should be kind of lucky that you got this requirement specification from Kim. Let's say he just wrote, I really want to have a restaurant CMS system. Figure it out.
Get out of the house.
Figure it out. There, of course, there should be some reservation functionality. Then Kim could come back every week. Oh, I had this feature also. Can you do that? Constantly changing.
We should do next project like that.
Yeah, you could do.
Like Kim just coming in every week.
But he wrote an assignment for you where all the requirements are in. He almost put his signature on it, saying, if you make this, it's okay. So the requirements won't change in this project. It's only your perfectionism kind of.
Yeah, we should talk about Kim.
I mean, even if you have a contract, the requirement can change.
Maybe he will bring an extra assignment with extra things. Yeah.
You have delivered.
Yeah. Very nice, people. Very nice. We should have a quiz without difficult PHP questions.
Did you find one?
Yeah, sure.
Or can we repeat the one we have?
No, I don't ever want to see it again. All right.
In a later show.
Let's see here. I think I will stop the streaming now.